So this is an interesting daily coding question, which was a problem that was asked by Twitter, which is to implement, let's just get this going. Right, there we go, to implement an autocomplete system over there. And basically what is the autocomplete? That is given a query string S, so that's our string S, and a set of all possible query strings. Return all the strings in the set that have S as a prefix. And then they give us an example just in case we don't understand this, because it is a little bit convoluted maybe. But for example, given a query string DE, so that's our query string, what we're querying for, and a set of strings dog, deer and deal, return deer and deal. And that's basically because if I go on it here, we're looking for the DE in this particular case, anything that begins with DE, and deer begins with DE, and deal begins with DE, but dog does not begin with DE, dog begins with DO. So that one won't be found, and therefore the return will be these two here, deer and deal. There are two return values that we get back. So that's basically it, and we have to make a little piece of code to do it. That's the challenge. And this is a code that I wrote, I guess, four years ago or something like that. And I've used this module, this regular expressions module. So this is something that's inbuilt into Python, that comes shipped with Python. So and it does this pattern matching. So it says over here, actually, if I hover over it, this module provides regular expression matching operations similar to those found in Perl. It supports both 8-bit and Unicode, blah, 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 blah. So it does some pattern matching. Regular expressions can contain both special and ordinary characters. So it does more than just the standard letters of the alphabet. Most ordinary characters like A, capital A, small a, and O are the simplest types of regular expressions. They simply match themselves. You can concatenate and so forth. Anyway, I'm using this particular module. It's a very large and sophisticated module. I'm using it in a relatively unsophisticated way. So I've got a quite simple, simplistic way. All I do is I create this variable QString for the query string, and in our case of the example, at least that we want to show, we want to look for this string DE, but we could be looking for any string. And then we're given this string set in the example, so we literally copy and paste it kind of like down here effectively. And that's basically what we might find back. And you can imagine this being much more complete. Obviously now we've got large language models and all the rest of it, but this would be something dictionary like. All the characters that began with D in the dictionary might be in the string set. And then when we do a D, we'll find all of the D stuff. And if we do a DE, we want to filter out all of the DE things and not, for example, get dog or something else that began with another letter like DR, drain, for example. Anyway, outside of that, so we've got our query string, we've got our string set, then we set we create a list here, a variable that contains an empty list, and that's a list that we're going to populate if we find anything. And at least the method that I did with, I did a for loop for I in string set, which is just iterating over each item in the iterable, which is each item in the list. Remember, a list is an iterable, so we can iterate over each item. And then I perform a z equals I. Remember, I is going to take on each value that's in here, so it's going to be a set of strings. So we can use the find method. It's one method that we can use, and if we don't put any arguments in there, we could just put the string in just to see if we find it. So we do dog and then dot find, and we're finding DE in dog, and it doesn't find it. And then we look for, then I becomes deer because it becomes the next element. So we start at dog, I is first dog, and there's nothing in it, and then I is deer next, and then finally I is deer. And we do our little pattern matching, and If z equals -1, so it means we find it, we continue. Otherwise, but if z is, oh, let me actually just clear all of this out. So just clear that. So if z is -1, it means that we haven't found the item, so we just continue on to the next element in the list. So we go through and we try to find it. And if we can find, so for each I in string test, so for each of these, if we can find the string, then we will append it into our list. So that's basically it. So our list will just get bigger if we find, when we find the DE in deer and when we find the DE in dill. And just hovering over the find, we can see here just down at the bottom, I should have pointed it out, but basically we either find something and we get a number, or we get -1 if it is not found. So we're kind of like looking for the not found case. So if it's not found, then it just basically, it doesn't append the list, the list stays blank, and then we just jump over and do the next search until we do find something. So that's basically it. And when we run this code, we see here on the right hand side that we get deer and deer, and that's basically it. So that was a problem that was asked by Twitter. That's an autocomplete. It's relatively simplistic. It uses the regular expressions in Python.